But let me say this. I mean, sometimes things do have to be divided, and sometimes you have to get on the side of what's right. I mean, it doesn't do you any good to stay divisive, but sometimes you got to make a decision and get on board with what's right. Now, I want to say I consider Gloria and Bert and Doug friends of mine. I do. I care about y'all a lot. And I'm no longer the board attorney. So I'm going to give you some free legal advice. This ain't going to cost you a dime. And Mr. Brown, I'll give it to you if you want it, you can take it. There's a law in the state of Alabama called the Open Meetings Act. You may be familiar with it. But I would charge you, and we're moving forward, I would charge y'all this, to if you hear somebody say, I've got the votes, or I have the votes to do this, and I've heard that a lot. And I've never asked, Gloria, I've never asked you about it, because not in a million years would I think anything that somebody, you had done anything behind the scenes, but let me tell you this. Either number one, somebody has the votes and they've done something illegal, or number two, somebody's lying. And I would encourage the three of y'all to either find out if somebody's lying about it, or if you're doing it to read the Open Meetings Act. And that's all I've got to say.
If anybody doesn't understand that issue, I'll simply tell you this, the city, and they're good folks, they're benefiting a whole lot more this time over the tragedy than the schools are. And I know that the economy can have a bearing on how taxes grow and all that kind of thing. That needs to be really looked at, but that's already been said. I'll get off of that. It was at that time you told me that you were very, very displeased with the superintendent, that you didn't tell me you had the votes to get rid of him, but you told me that if he brought up the 550 again, that he would be in serious trouble, that you had told him not to bring that up again. That concerned me. I kind of kept that between you and me at that time. You told me at that initial meeting in December 2011 that you would be appointed school board in the spring. I was a little bit baffled by that. Particularly in hindsight now, of how we would know this in December, when I don't believe those appointments are made till maybe April, May anyway. You don't go into effect, don't go into office until June. So I was a little baffled by that, but I didn't think anything about it. I knew you had been on school board before. Then on the second visit, you shared with me, this is the time when you expressed concern over Dr. Milner's performance for looking after the school system, that you would most likely be appointed for another 5-year term. Do you remember that? Are there others of you who've heard Mr. Cotter say that? He told me that then. I've wondered how that could be unless there's some sort of improper political relationship there between you and those who make those appointments. It begins first and foremost with trust between a school board and a superintendent. Sometimes that trust might lead to rubber stamping, I don't know. I came to learn that it was the result of trust plus a lot of dadgum homework being done before recommendations were made. And you don't mess with our school board. You don't play games up there when you're talking to the school board. You shoot straight with them, Mr. Brown. You give them the facts.
But there was, immediately when I came on the board, the $550,000 was mentioned by Aaron. He was rather persistent with it. He went to the State Board of Education to find a technical way to get out of it. And my remarks were that Aaron, let's do not get into that. Let's do, and he raised his hand on 3 different occasions and said, I will not go there again. His exact word too. And but there should have been, what the goal was to provide harmony until we got to the year 2015. And I've been rather consistent about the $550,000. When it gets to that point, and I think I mentioned it last time, if there's 3 or 4 conditions, and I'd be the first to ask for help, but I've made no secret of that. And if the economy was good, and the mayor knows that I've made these statements to him on 3 or 4 different times. And one of those conditions was if the economy was good, the other was if the school system was managing its funds fine, and then if the city was doing all right, then I'd be the first to ask for some help. The second point I want to make, and it does have to do with money, and I'm sorry that, when I came on the board, and you can call this micromanaging if you want to, and other people can too, but there's approximately somewhere between 16 and 18 million dollars, and I want everybody to understand this. It's significant. It's a lot bigger dollars, than you may think it is. I simply asked the question, how much of that 16 to 18 million dollars were we drawing interest on? We were drawing 0 interest on. And that troubled me. And yes, as a business person and as a student working for Trojan, because on one hand, we were doing nothing to draw interest on 15, 18 million dollars. On the other hand, we were trying to talk about the 550. It didn't seem consistent to me. Thank you.
The thing that's been difficult for me about the 550, everybody needs to understand, is I inherited this position without a signed agreement. Yes, I went to the State Department of Education because the name at the bottom of that check that would go back to the city was Aaron Millman. The Department of Examiners has questioned the legality of that transfer. It's not up to you if that money is rescinded by the council. It's not up to the council. The taxpayers of Enterprise are the ones who should determine if $7.7 million is to be withdrawn from their child's education. Let's clarify CDs. I inherited this position owing Brassfield and Gorey over $20 million, as you're aware. We had multiple issues that I solved immediately upon becoming superintendent. To be honest, I wasn't perfect, but I did everything I could, poured myself into it. Our chief school financial officer advised me to leave that money liquid at that time because we did not know what was happening with the construction at that time as far as where we were going. You also were educated quickly about the SAFE program, which you were not aware of at the time, in which we had to break those investments. And I did, as you asked, and kept paying money out into $250,000 increments all over the state of Alabama. And you even took it upon yourself to meet with a banker at CB&T, without my knowledge, to discuss that. So, here's my issue with the 550, Jim. We probably should have had this conversation a long time ago, and it's not all about that. Yes. That's a small part of it. But when you've made an FY8, $883,132, FY9, $1,872,336.05, FY10 was a down year, $53,000, FY11, $1,034,883.54, FY12, $1,109,754.58. FY13 is going to be a minimum of 1.2 with the 3.5 mil ad valorem, which in 3 articles of the Enterprise Ledger and Southeast Sun combined said we're going to Enterprise City Schools. I don't know if you said that, but the paper told the voter that. I don't care if you keep the 3.5 mil ad valorem. But there's no way you can look these people and tell them it's right. I heard the term negligible when we met at the Enterprise Community College. These aren't negligible figures. They're nowhere close. And it was by a person who's much more educated in finance than I am. This meeting shouldn't even have taken place. And I hate I had to end that way. Again, finally, having to defend myself again to you. Teachers, you're as good as it gets. Don't let anybody ever tell you that being in the top 10 is where it's at. So if you show up in the classroom, but I submitted 30 days notice and there was no exit clause in my contract. I could have come in and packed it up and left that, thief in the night. But I owed everything to this system, everything. They did an outstanding job educating me, my children. In addition, they provided, until recently, an excellent work environment. But unfortunately, in conjunction with the city attorney, an agreement was drawn up for my termination on Wednesday morning, prior to accepting my resignation, where I tried to ride out the next 30 days. And again, you're right, I'm so blessed. I'm going to a great system. God opened the door for me. My faith has been so strong. I've told many people that. So it's with no bitterness, board members, because of what you, certain members, I want to say that word, certain members, I want to say that word, because of what you indicated to me last week, that my employment will end Friday at 3 o'clock. And I want you to please realize, Mayor, recognize this school system. Look at these folks. Recognize that there's power in this community. They'll go to war for you if you'll just do that. They're great folks. I want you to find the best person you can while taking into account everything these people have said. I urge you to do that.
You get through these financial things. I was going to address the $25 million and the 7.7 million and the 32.7 million, but that's already been addressed. I don't believe y'all need the 550. I just don't believe you need it. I believe you can forego that. I have heard in the selection of school board members that it is done with the help of outside people outside the council and outside city government. Is that true?
No.
You told me it was.
Yeah, I told you that there were people asked people's opinion just like they have mine.
Well, that's the participation.
And Pat, let me say one thing that you just alluded to, please. And I don't think you can deny that. You alluded to a bad time in this town when there was division, and who was standing there with you in the schools the most. Who did the most work on that?
You did a great deal of it, a whole lot of work on it. Couldn't ask for better status. Couldn't ask for better support.
Thank you.
But now you said you're saying no. And nobody's consulted about it. Mayor, I'm asking you.
I said no, sir.
No, you don't ever consult anybody outside of council and you about support the board, school board members?
I consulted their attorney and their board member. Our council board member.
No support, you don't ask anybody else about it?
I do ask people about their opinions, Mr. Moore.
Of course, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But I don't.
How do you get on that group? Is it open for participation for any citizen?
Yes, sir. If you want to, we will ask the council if they want to ask you questions. We'll have them ask questions.
Okay, I'll get a chance to do that.
That's what they will.
Okay, council members, then we're just going to leave it up to the council members to do that. Okay, Tom, I won't be concluded.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have heard from the people in this room tonight. I've heard some hurtful things that's been said. I've heard things that has been said in prior meetings. I plead on behalf of the council. I come to you and I plead for this community to come together. It is the only way that we will continue to be able to move forward. I would tell you that I have spoken individually with each of you at some point in time. Those that have came to me for help, I've made conscious efforts to help. And I look at many of you, and I make a conscious effort to help anytime anybody calls me. I am restricted by some things that I can and can't do, but I too work hard, Dr. Miller. I have consciously tried to work with you in good faith. This council has as well. I think the decisions that we've tried to make for our city does not exclude our schools, because our schools is just as much part of the city as anything else. To board members that have served, thank you for serving. I would tell you that we stood behind you, and we thank you for your service to this community and to this school system. For our current board members, we thank you for the service that you have agreed to serve, and we too will continue to stand behind you. There is no one in the world that is a perfect person, and I will continue to make conscious efforts, as well as the city council, to continue to do everything that we can possibly do to make this city a great place for us all to live. Thank you for the opportunity to come and stand and share my feelings. Dr. Milgram, we wish you well. To the current board members, thank you, and thank you for what you do. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, I believe that completes the agenda.